to manage these Web2 platforms, but the key is that, yeah, like she was saying, the data, they're living on third-party platforms. They could get shadow banned, they could get, canceled, right? So the key is that they have to be able to collect their data. And what's important is, like right now, a lot of creators, influencers, they make their money on things like brand deals. At the same time, I don't know of too many creators that can tell the brands, like, how did I do? I posted this story on Instagram, what did I do? And so we've been trying to build data tools in the back to collect, even like what getting your data from these platforms, you need to be able to program well. They don't know how to do that, so we kind of give tools to kind of connect them to their data and then pull that into a place, and we're working on something where then that goes on chain, right? So that, let's say a brand could come in and actually be able to access that data, see it, right? And so if you're doing an Instagram story, now you have data behind it, and you have all this other data that you can pick up, and you could do this pretty easily with different things. Like as an example, if you did a giveaway on Instagram, that drives people to something that you now control. Now you're collecting lists and data, and now as you're collecting that, you can, a creator that is armed with that kind of data can go back to brands and can get a lot more money than they're getting right now. And you can build that into, these smart contracts that basically can come in and help creators monetize their data better.
So I think let's zoom out for a second, because what you're explaining is a really cool model that I talk a lot about in the podcast. When you think about the Web3 creator economy today, you have to sort of zoom out and think about it like this. Creators use Web2 platforms to build distribution and virality, and when they're more crypto native, they use Web3 to capture that value. So there's a constant bridge between those two worlds to kind of build audiences that attract virality, that can distribute the messages of an NFT drop, and then linking them to a smart contract platform, whether it be Glass, Sound, Zora, whatever these platforms are, to actually mint the NFTs and to capture more of that value. But now I feel like we're transitioning into a new world, the era of Web3 social, right? Crypto native social, where, and this may be a hot take, but my bet is your community of collectors will surpass your community of followers, right? So as you build viral audiences, right, they're gonna be sort of kind of like measured by what they've collected from you versus what they've liked, what they've viewed, and so on and so on and so forth. So I'd like to sort of transition the conversation into Web3 social, because I think what you were alluding to earlier, Rex and Ellie, is like, when you build audiences, you can get shadow banned, right? And there goes your entire account. Or if a new platform pops up, like let's say in 2018 when TikTok started getting its moment, all the Instagram creators kind of became MIA and TikTok creators became the new thing, it becomes less of a problem when you build audiences via collectors in Web3. So let's transition the conversation into the topic of Web3 social, just to kind of like share some general thoughts. Brett, I know you've been vocal about this lately, collecting content, talking about building audiences on chain. Any quick thoughts to share on this?
Yeah, I think what's going on in the NFT space right now, where collectors are collecting, they're valuing content from their favorite creators or from creators they appreciate their content, is already the beginning of a very social experience. I mean, the relationships being developed are much more beyond anything we have in Web 2 in comparison to like following someone on Instagram or liking a photo. Those don't really carry that much value or don't differentiate one fan, one person in the audience from the other. Whereas now, in the NFT space, how much do you actually care about that artist and kind of create that signal that the artist can notice and appreciate you back. So I think in the future, as this is a much bigger space, running up to your favorite artist and saying, I was the first one to follow you, I love your music since the beginning, like is much less of a reality where it's like, you probably already know each other, you're probably invited, you know, you're in the right spot, you're being taken care of the right way. Not necessarily just in IRL experiences, but just more of like, as an example. And I think Web3 social is just like, how do you show off all these relationships that are being created in this NFT, in this ecosystem of owning content, of collecting your favorite creators and showing off your appreciation for them. So I'm excited for platforms that visualize and make it more clear what kind of relationships are being formed, that it actually is really valuable what's going on. And then also things like Lens, for example, where Adam is maybe the most followed creator on Lens. Shout out Adam Levy.
Arguably.
Yeah, I mean, it's really impressive. It's past his Twitter followers at this point, so I'm all in on Lens now.
I
But yeah, Lens is also actually adding more data constantly. Like, so I think whenever something is putting more content, more data on chain for the creator, it's adding to that like relationship, social graph that's being built. You know, whether even if it's just like the equivalent of a tweet that someone ends up collecting, it's creating more context for people to realize and view relationships around. So I'm excited about it.
Really quick, just to kind of poll the audience again, how many of you guys are on TikTok? Okay, so when you, and how many of you guys have a crypto wallet? Okay, so when I sort of think about the mental model of collectible content, the same action that goes into liking a video on TikTok and it being added to your favorites folder is sort of the same mentality of collecting something and it being added into your wallet, right? But the cool thing about that, the way I sort of think about it, and Rex, this is back to what you were saying, like brand deals are still a big part of a creator's revenue. When I build an audience on chain, there's so much information that I can tap into to understand what other communities are my collectors a part of, go to those communities, figure out really cool collaborations, and cross-pollinate together. This is something I can't really do efficiently in the Web2 world. And I've done this. I bring podcast sponsors, right? I find the people, because I give out free NFTs to my listeners, I see what other communities are my collectors a part of, I go to those brands, and I try to do activations on chain accordingly because, wait a minute, we already have overlapping audiences. I could probably cross-pollinate and get value, and you could probably cross-pollinate for my community and get value. Right, so just to kind of give like an off the bat example of like the depth of this data and the value that kind of gets accrued to the creator. But yeah, on the topic of Web3 social, Ellie, any quick thoughts into what you're seeing in that space?
Yeah, I think the kind of two main frontiers that we're seeing in the Web3 social space is this idea of creating a profile and this idea of either collecting this content